Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna-rahitam Sadgurum Tam Namam. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Nirvana Prakarana Purvārdha. Section 93 continues. Kumbha Muni gives the instructions to King Shikhidwaja. And Kumbha Muni is Queen Chudala. Like a thread sustaining the beads of pearls is the Chitta, which sustains the objects of this world. When Chitta is renounced, all this is renounced. Always this insight is being promoted, that all that you experience through your mind and senses, of course mind and senses is allegorical, because mind itself extends into senses. So when I say mind, senses are already involved in it. By mind we are referring to Chitta. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. All experiences are Chitta's projections. Like in a cinema show, all the show is backed up by projections. But behind the projections, screen is the thread that passes through every form that is being projected. Having renounced the Chitta, one becomes the sustainer of the whole world. The entire world experience is a result of Chitta's projections, Chitta Vrittis. And the Chitta Vrittis, they receive their special support from the screen. It is the screen that becomes all things that you see in a cinema show. It is Brahman that is expressing through every name and form. Names and forms are due to projections of the Chitta. But the entire Chitta itself is same pure consciousness mixed up with projections. By mix up again is an allegorical term. How does a screen become mixed up with projections? Projections will have no meaning if the screen was not there. I'm using the old example. If the projecting mechanism is taken away, what is left? There's nothing but the screen. This is expressed in the Raja Yoga Sutras. Samadhi Yoga Sutra number 2. The first sutra says, Asa Yoganuशासनम. It begins the teachings of the yoga. And the second defines the yoga. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga means union, Here union term also is allegorical. Who is going to unite with whom? A reflected sun discovers I am the sun. In an allegorical way, it has to be united with the sun. But then reflected sun is nothing but the sun always. So union is disunion from your deluded understanding. Just as clouds are maintained by the sky, clouds are sustained by the sky, in the same manner, the illusion of the world is sustained by the self. He who has realized the self by renouncing the chitta is figuratively described as one who has mastered all the objects of the world. In brief, one who has attained revelation of the self. By renouncing the chitta, a sage extinguishes the flame of cravings and in turn becomes the light of the self that illumines all. This also is always an allegorical description of liberation, where Trishna is like a flame, attains nirvana, flame is extinguished. But in the world of projection, the flame is never extinguished. You strive to fulfill your cherished desires, and by miracle of God, your desires become fulfilled more than you imagine. But then, is it fulfillment? No. Any worldly development has is perishable, transient, and also it has a mirage type of effect. So where lies the state wherein the flame of craving can be extinguished? That's called nirvana. And with this extinction, revelation, aham brahmasmi. Then that's called Brahma Nirvana. Even the slightest taste of supreme renunciation frees one of the fear of repeated embodiments. Just as the sky cannot be pricked by thorns, in the same manner, he who has attained supreme renunciation cannot be hurt by anything in this world. When we say cannot be hurt, you have to have a mature understanding. Otherwise, immature disciples develop the idea that a sage is constantly in bliss. So, if he is sneezing, let him sneeze, because he is in bliss. Not so. You must. The external life of a sage is like an external life of anybody. It needs its own treatment. If he's tired, he needs to rest. If he's exhausted, he has to be relaxed. So from physical point of view, all these remedies for his discomfort are practical. The practical aspect is not taken away. His blissful state is a state experienced by his understanding. How you understand, that's another level of your personality. How you act in the world, that's another level. You may be extremely busy, extremely so much that you may feel so much stress. But at the same time, your being busy is not monkey business. If you are a sadhaka, you are being busy in order to discover your inner communion with God. Internally, as you are more settled, externally, all things go on in your life. Remember always Prarabdha karma is Swecha Prarabdha, Anichcha Prarabdha, Parecha Prarabdha. Prarabdha karma goes on like superficial waves. Behind the waves is the internal fulfillment. And that's the way every aspirant has to understand. You have two-aspected personality. External world continues to present waves of externality. Inner world continues to be like the sky. The sky remains unpinched, unprickled, unaffected by the clouds. Clouds are the external world. They continue to sneeze and cough, thunder and rain. But the sky remains ever untouched. So, that's the movement of mati, understanding. Sabko sanamati de Bhagwan. It is that understanding that has to be promoted. It takes, in first stage, becomes intellectual understanding. That helps you to do your sadhana. But you begin to do your sadhana, intellectual understanding begins to bring about lightness in the pressure of your ego. Ego is constantly pressuring it. But ego becomes lightened. Then you become enlightened. And that movement is called Vairagya. Vairagya, which is already explained before, in early stage, you are promoting your progress in the terms of karma. If you have Vairagya, you will not be a durachari, following the path of wrong conduct. You will begin to follow the path of righteous conduct. More Vairagya, more righteousness. But no matter how righteous you are, if you have upper Vairagya, lower Vairagya, you are not going to attain liberation. It is paving the way towards it. Paravairagya, your intellect becomes inspirational, intuitional. So, in spite of your practical life seems to be crowded, which is everyone's life is crowded. No one, no sage, lived a Prarabdha karma that was so comfortable. If that had been so, there wouldn't be sages. You always remember a sage because he has faced terrible circumstances. So where has been his constant bliss? In a world of hisses, where lies the bliss? But where is the bliss gone? It is ever present in reality within your own heart. your innermost self. Who am I? When the chitta is emptied of ignorance and its effects, it is filled with the light of the self. It's all allegorical description. Chitta is as if burdened with a load. The load created by ajnan, ignorance. If that load is lifted, chitta will become chit, pure awareness. So emptying the chitta of ignorance, the load of ignorance, you must need to understand the more subtle detail. Removing ignorance implies dealing with mala, vikshepa and avarana. Mala, gross impurity. Vikshepa, distractions caused by malin vasana, impure subtle desires. Avarana is the veil of ignorance. And removing all this is the project of spiritual sadhana. Removing mala, vikshepa and avarana. Mala is removed by karma yoga. Vikshepa is removed by bhakti and dhyana yoga. Avarana is removed by jnana yoga. So if you are practicing integral yoga, you don't have to go on counting which I have to remove. All the three are gradually being eliminated. O King, supreme renunciation is the abode of all forms of prosperity. When we talk of prosperity, it refers to bliss. You are finding happiness in the world by hopping from one object to another. It's not happiness, it's a happiness. The real happiness is eternal bliss of the self. When you are seeking perfection in the realm of clouds, that's unreal happiness. The world movement is a cloud movement. They are created by mental projections. One moment your mind is projecting in a negative way. Trillions of computer chips come out as it were from your chitta. The world is so vast that you don't find any answer to your problem. But led by spiritual insight, act of grace, the result of integral yoga, you are gradually come to discover you are like the sky and not the clouds. Instead of staying in the realm of clouds, a revelation, I am the sky. Now therefore, no matter how the clouds move, the sky is ever the same. That is vision. When it becomes secure, then you have attained sthita prajna state. And that's the goal of life. Therefore, renouncing the chitta, may you become like the sky, untouched by the clouds of the world process, and become one with Brahman. First, renounce the objects of the world by your mind. This is called bhuha sannyastam maya, renouncing the earth plane, renouncing the world that you experience by your senses. The next renouncing the world of your sentiments. Bhuva sanyastamaya. Next, renouncing the world of your misunderstanding. Swa sanyastamaya. These are the three lokas. All details that you hear of lokas, and your mind is directed towards the sky, where is one loka, and how many millions lights years away is another loka. That's simply deluded vision. It is not a spaced out locations. This is your own internal consciousness operating in three levels. The level of senses, the level of your sentiments, the level of your will, the level of your reasoning. Basically, Mala, Vikshepa and Avarana. These are the three knots of the heart that keep you knotted with the three lokas. So, finally renounce the notion, I have renounced, and become liberated even this very life. When you have attained renunciation, you don't need to shout out, I have renounced, I have renounced. A river has entered the ocean. How can the river have to shout, I have entered the ocean, I have no more emotion? In other words, sadhana aspect is characterized by effort. Your attainment is effortless. Section 94. Kumbha Muni gives insight into renunciation. King Shikhidvaja asked, O sage, the mind is like a bird flying in the sky, or like a monkey agitating the tree of my heart. How can this mind be overcome? Similar question Arjuna had asked Krishna in the Gita. Mind is so fickle. How can it be controlled? And Krishna gave the answer, Abhyasa and Vairagya. By repeated effort to support your integral practice. And Vairagya, a progressive detachment that leads you beyond the three lokas, Bhu, Bhuva, Swa. Shikhidvaja continues to ask, I can understand the idea of trapping the mind like a fish in a net. But how can it be renounced when it is immaterial and abstract? The idea your mind has to be caught is like a monkey, trapped. But when you have heard that your mind is made out of Maya, magic, so how can you catch a mirage and put it in a bottle? How can it be renounced when it is immaterial and abstract? Please explain to me the nature of the Chitta and then tell me how to renounce it. Kumbha Muni replied, the Chitta. Whenever we talk of Chitta, I must realize all the four aspects of the mind. Unconscious, that contains samskaras, your intellect, that evaluates, discriminates, your ego that asserts, me and mine, and your conscious mind that goes on jumping like a monkey from one object of pleasure to another. So how to renounce chitta means how to renounce all the four aspected mind. Man, buddhi, chitta, hankar. Antahakaran chatushtaya. Kumbh Muni says, renunciation of this, if you are following the right course, is easier than plucking a flower if one is enlightened about the illusoriness of the subtle desires. Your problems are always because you view your desires so real. But when you begin to understand the desires are not real, you have so many desires today, your mind becomes highly sattvic and joyous. Where are they gone? You become filled with inspiration. When you go to deep sleep, what has happened to all those desires? You immediately find so much inner peace. So, the secret lies in vasana kshaya, subtle desires to be understood being illusory, and it's a progressive movement. However, for a person who is not endowed with subtle understanding of the illusoriness of the objects of the world, renouncing is more difficult than a tiny straw assuming a gigantic form of a mountain. What is to an advanced aspirant a tiny straw, to a mediocre dullwit is like a big mountain. Shikhidwaja said, I understand that the chitta is a collection of vasanas. However, I find the renunciation of subtle desires as difficult as swallowing a thunderbolt. Another illustration is given. The first illustration is a straw and the mountain. Next one, something that's like a little breeze. And now it becomes like a thunderbolt. Your mind is dull. Controlling vasana is controlling thunderbolts. If mind is not dull, controlling vasana is just like the sky sees the thunderbolt. To the sky, thunderbolt means nothing. O sage, this chitta, what's the fragrance of the world process? The whole world process is experienced as a result of vasana. And vasana term literally refers to fragrance. We experience the world the way we smell it. If something goes on secret, people touch their nose. I know what they're talking. The nose is a sensitive instrument. Allegorically, you are smelling it. Animals highlight the nose. They smell out things that are million miles, not million, but some miles away. So the whole world you experience as if you are smelling. The subconscious creates you the attitude. What is desirable, what is not desirable. If the vasana changes, your attitude changes. talking about the vasana. It is the fire giving rise to the heat of afflictions. Negative vasana enhances kleshas. Kleshas are ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, fear of death. These dominate human mind. Of all your worries, if you analyze them, they come into 5 groups. The fear of mortality, that's abhinivesh klesha. The raga and dvesha, attachment and hatred, a constant effort to hold on to people, things that have given you comfort and happiness. But what has really given you comfort, you don't know. Same person with whom you are seeking so much comfort, once the mind has developed misunderstanding, you want the person to go to hell. I'm giving very crude example. Having sent the person to hell, realized it was a complete mistake. Now you have to get to hell to bring the person out. So that's the predicament of raga dvesha. These are the kleshas. And behind raga dvesha, asmita, egoism. How inflated is your ego? And behind the egoism is ignorance. How you keep your mind attached to ignorance. You don't want to open your heart to profounder understanding. You love to be ignorant. By keeping bad association. Bad association satisfies your mind according to the way you are thinking. Good association begins to give you a spiritual scolding. Wake up, arise. You are not in the right course. But does it in a nice way. So, how you are drawn to kleshas, that you have to understand for gaining insight into mystic psychology. How you are clinging to ignorance, how you are clinging to egoism, clinging to your attachment, clinging to your hatred, and clinging to the fear of death. These kleshas, they create malin vasana. Led by malin vasana, you are drawn to millions of troubles. You are trapped by bhavavyadhi, disease of the world process. And disease of the world process drives you to cycles of birth and death. There's no end to it. Chitta wafts the fragrance of the world process. It is a fire giving rise to the heat of afflictions. It is a stalk on which the world is a lotus. It is a sky supporting the cloud of delusion. It is a prompter of the machinery of the body. It is the bee in the lotus of the heart. How can the chitta be renounced effortlessly? That's what Sikhidwaja asks. Kumbha Muni replied, O king, When you discover the root, branch, sprout, leaves, flowers, and fruits of this chitta, it can be easily renounced. Now, allegorically, ignorance is being described in the form of a tree, and chitta being the medium of the whole ignorance. Chitta is being highlighted. Divine illusion is the field in which the chitta grows. The chitta tree is expression of the tree of ignorance. The root of the chitta tree is chitta itself, synonym with ignorance. And the limited intellect arises when the self is identified with the not self. Ignorance is the seed, and out of that ignorance, malina buddhi arises, impure intellect, like a sprout. This is this sprout which grows into the tree of the chitta. This turns the chitta more and more gross. But intellect gives rise to a grosser development if you are simply being led to series. First level is ignorance. The ignorance causes a malin buddhi, impure intellect. Impure intellect means your sankalpas, your willing becomes egoistic. Egoism-based willing is dusankalpa. When your will goes after eliminating egoism, it becomes susankalpa, right type of will. This willing movement is like a trunk. Thus the tree of the chitta attains its form. Senses are the long spreading branches of this tree. The good and evil karmas that give rise to numerous births and deaths are the fruits of this tree. The countless enjoyments are its twigs. The entire world process is described in the form of a tree, beginning with the chitta, getting into intellect, your ego, your mind, your senses, your karmas, and nothing else left. This tree must be rooted out by renouncing all attachments. It's called Asamsakti. This is the state. Come back to Jnana Bhumikas. First step, your Shubhecha, aspiration, Vicharana, reflection, Tanumanasi, attenuation of your mind by your vichar, Sattvapatti, allowing the mind to be dominated by Sattva. And now comes Asamsakti, detachment. So your practice of detachment is early stage, is upper asakti, upper anasakti. The higher detachment is para anasakti. I'm using creating some new terms. And the whole movement of detachment is called Vairagya. Vairagya is the axe with which you must continue to cut down this tree until it is eradicated from its very root. And Vairagya practice also becomes upper Vairagya and Paravairagya. Aparavairagya is in the realm of Chitta vrittis. Paravairagya, when the entire Chitta mechanism, the projection itself is withdrawn, reminding you of Bhava Pratyaya, Pratyaya Bhava. By the practice of Viveka and Vairagya, you can cut off its branches. If you perform your duties without attachment, without seeking a reward for your actions, you will be able to discover the root of this tree, and then you may destroy it. Asanga shastrena drirena chitva. When you have developed asanga state, the entire tree you can cut down with mystic insight. Am Brahmas. And with this, I'm going to conclude. Om. Om. Ram, 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 Ram. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om. Prayer for shower of Karunamaya grace of God over all of you, with the blessings of Shakti, Bhakti and Mukti. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukum Bandhana Mrityor Mukshiyamamrita. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.